I'm going to show you how to configure a switch stack with Aruba 6300 switches, and then we're going to manage the switch stack in New Central. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take two switches out of the box, and they have no configuration on them. You have to make sure that the switches have no configuration. If they've had a previous configuration, get into the command line and run the command erase all 0 eyes. When you run that, then it will wipe both of the switches. Takes about 10 minutes. And then you take the switch that you want to be the conductor and you plug into port 26 on a 24 port switch. And that will be the conductor. And then on the subscriber switch below it, you'll plug the DAC cable into port 25. Then you'll hit the mode button 3 times. So the first time you hit this mode button right here, the PoE light will come on. Second time you press it, the speed light will come on. And the third time you press it, it will go to stack. So if the two switches are factory defaulted and connected together properly on the DAC cables, they will form a stack. So it will take a couple minutes, and then once the switches are stacked, you'll see that port 1 on the conductor will blink, and port 2 will blink on the subscriber. So I'm going to show you. This is just to give you an idea of what we're doing here. Now we're going to connect switch 1, which is going to be my conductor. That's going to be on port 26. And then switch 2 gets plugged in the port 25. Then you hit the stacking, you hit the mode button 3 times until it lands on stacking. And then it will auto stack. So that's the first step. Once the switch auto stacks, we're going to log in. To Aruba Central. So first I'm logging in to Green Lake. Once I'm in Green Lake, make it into my account. I'm going to first go to device inventory. Now my switches, I've already added them into my device inventory. If your switches are brand new and you haven't added them in, click on Add Networking Device, and you can add them in by serial number and MAC address. And then just click Add and then Next. So now that I have my devices in here, I'm going to filter on 6300s. And here are my 2 switches. So I know it's this switch and also this switch. So as you can see, they're not assigned to service. So first we're going to assign the switches a service. Then we're going to assign a subscription tier. So let's go in and first do assign a service. It's going to go to Aruba Central. And you'll probably only have one region in the drop-down box. Okay, so let's filter again on 6300s. So now you can see that they've been assigned a service, but they do not have a subscription. So let's put a subscription on. Okay. So now once we have the devices in Green Lake, we added the service and we added the subscription. We're now going to go into Aruba Central. So you can see now it defaults into Central, but I need to go into Classic Central right now. So once I go in the Classic Central, my switches will show up. It's going to take a minute because I just assigned my devices. And it's going to take a minute. I'm going to go plug my switch in now so it connects to the internet. And soon they should show up in my unprovisioned devices. So I'm going to pause for a minute and wait for my switches to connect to Aruba Central, and then we'll start managing them. Okay, so now my switches showed up. I'm going to click on my 2 switches. And I'm going to move them into my group. So we'll talk a little bit about groups, but let me first move them into this new group. All right, so you can see I had this group. I made this earlier. And as you can see, it says New Central and AOS10. So here are some of my older Classic Central groups. And you can see they do not say New Central, so that's not what I want. If you don't have a group that is set up for New Central, click on the Add Group, give it a name, make sure you click the slider for Allow New Central Configuration, and then you can add, if you just want to do switches, you can click on Switches. Or if you want to add access points and gateways, all to manage all of these devices in the same group, you can check these boxes and then you click Next. I'm going to click Cancel for now. So I moved them into this group. So that's the first step is, oh, I moved them into here, sorry. So this is the first step, is to move them into your group. Now in Classic Central, groups used to be used for configuration. But in New Central, we use sites. So we also have to add these switches to a site. So if you don't have a site, you have to go in here and you can add an additional site. You can click on the plus and add a new site. Just fill out the address, your site name. But sites are required in New Central. So here I have 2 unassigned devices. These are my 2 switches. And I want to move them into my 735 site. So I'm going to drag one at a time. And looks like they both went over. Let me refresh and make sure they both went in. It knows that they're stacked, so I guess it pulled both in. All right, so it looks like they went in. Now that I put them into a group and into a site, we're going to leave Classic Central and go back into Central. So I do want to show you that if I went in the 735, I want to show you, a lot of people miss this step. And then we go into switches. Here's my switch stack. If I went into this switch and I tried to manage it, I clicked on configuration here, I'm going to get this error. So what you want to do, go back to global. And it's hard. This throws a lot of people off because you can see here on my web browser, I have to scroll down. You don't even see that device inventory below. So scroll down. This is your next step. Scroll down the device inventory. Click on the devices. I'm going to click on switches. And you can see here's my 2 new switches. So you can see here's my conductor and here's my standby. So what I'm going to do is they are not assigned a device function. So I'm going to do one switch at a time. I'm going to assign, and I'm going to assign it to the device function of access switch. So here you you see that you can assign either core switch, aggregation, or access. I'm going to make it an access switch, so assign. Now I'm going to go to my standby, do the same thing. So it looks like, since it knows it's stacked, that it already made it the access switch. So I'm just going to give that a minute for Aruba Central to push the information down. And then the next step is, if I go back and I look at my site, I can go into my configuration, and if I go to my devices, I can see my stack right here. If I click on this, I now can click on manage, and it sees my 56 switch interfaces. So and the number's 56 because the two switches are stacked together. So if I click on here, now I click manage, my two switches are going to show up and all my ports are here. So it's going to take a minute. It's not showing up, but a view of my two switches will show up here. So I'm going to pause, and I'm going to just give it a minute for Aruba Central to catch up, and then we'll be able to see both of my switches show up in here. And then you can scroll down, and you see here's 2 is my standby switch, or my subscriber. So we'll be able to go in and click on the ports and configure them. But I'm going to stop for a minute. Let me see if I refresh to see if my switches show up, their interfaces. Oh, there they are. So here's a slider. You can see here is my conductor. Here it's showing that this port is active because that's how I'm connecting or how I'm stacking. And if you pull this slider down, you can also see the standby switch and how they're connected. And as we move down, I'm going to move this back up here. But I can slide down and highlight individual ports and configure them over here. So that's how you start configuring your switches when they're in a switch stack in New Central or just Aruba Central.